Gather round the fire, friends, under a sky shimmering with stars. Welcome back to Tales of the Untamed West, where the spirit of the frontier whispers through ancient stories. Tonight, we journey to the sacred lands of Black Mesa, a place of mystery and memory for the Navajo people. This is a tale of vengeance, redemption, and the echoes of the past. A Navajo folktale woven with the untamed threads of the Wild West. Meet Kyle, a young warrior haunted by a ghostly spirit, and follow his path through a desert of danger and discovery. If you love Tawa's journey in The Song of the Wandering Crow, this story will set your heart ablaze. Hit that subscribe button, and let's ride into the shadows of Black Mesa. Keep the fire burning, and let's begin. In the year 1870, the rugged lands of Black Mesa stood as a sacred sentinel in the Navajo Nation, a place where the earth held the memories of the Dene. The red cliffs rose like ancient guardians, their surfaces etched with the scars of time, and the golden sands whispered secrets under a relentless sun. Here, in a small village nestled at the mesa's base, lived Kyle, a young Navajo warrior of 20 summers, with eyes as sharp as a hawk's and a heart heavy with the weight of his people's past. The village was a humble cluster of hogans, their earthen walls blending into the desert, their rounded roofs adorned with subtle geometric patterns, zigzags and diamonds that spoke of the Dene's connection to the land. Women wove blankets under the shade of juniper trees, their fingers dancing with threads of red and black, while men tended to the sheep, their staffs tapping the ground in a steady rhythm. Children played near a dry stream bed, their laughter a fragile echo in a land still healing from the wounds of the long walk. In 1864, the Navajo had been forced from their homes by soldiers, marched hundreds of miles to a barren reservation, and though they had returned, the scars lingered like shadows on the earth. Kale's family lived in a hogan near the village's edge, where his mother Elu prepared flatbread over a small fire, her hands steady despite the lines of worry on her face. His father, Sela, a skilled hunter, carved arrowheads from flint, his silence a testament to the burdens he carried. Kyle's younger sister, Yiska, just 10 summers old, often followed him like a shadow, her bright eyes full of questions. But Kale was a quiet soul, his thoughts often drifting to the stories his grandfather had told, of warriors who walked with spirits, of a time when the Dene roamed free. Each night, the village gathered around a communal fire, the elders sharing, tales under a sky ablaze with stars. Kale's grandfather, Nahata, had been the best storyteller, his voice a river of wisdom. He spoke of the holy people, of spirits that guarded the land, and of a dark time when outsiders came with guns and greed. Beware the shadows of vengeance, Nahata had warned, for they bind the soul to sorrow. Nahata had passed 2 winters ago, but his words lingered in Kyle's heart like a distant drum. For weeks, Kyle had been haunted by dreams that stole his peace. Each night, he saw a black wolf, its fur shimmering like obsidian, its amber eyes piercing through the darkness. The wolf stood on Black Mesa, howling a mournful cry that echoed through the canyons, a cry that seemed to call his name. Kyle would wake, his heart pounding, the scent of sage and smoke lingering in the air. He felt the weight of the dreams, a pull he could not ignore, as if the spirit world was reaching for him. One evening, as the village shared a meager meal of mutton and corn, Kale sat apart, his gaze fixed on the flames. Yiska tugged at his sleeve, her voice small. "Brother, why do you look so far away?" Kyle forced a smile, ruffling her hair. "I'm listening to the wind, little one," he said. But the truth was heavier. He knew the dreams were a call, a summons from the past, and he feared what they might demand. The dreams grew darker, more vivid, until Kyle could no longer dismiss them. One night, as the moon hung low over Black Mesa, the black wolf appeared again, its amber eyes glowing like embers. But this time it spoke, its voice a low growl that seemed to rise from the earth itself. "I am Ashki, your ancestor," the wolf said. "I was betrayed on this mesa, my blood spilled by outsiders who sought our land. They live still, their kin thriving in a town of sin. Avenge me, Kale, and free my spirit from this torment." Kale woke with a start, his breath ragged, the wolf's words burning in his mind. Ashki, his great-grandfather's name, a warrior, who had fallen during the long walk, betrayed by a group of bounty hunters who sold Navajo lives for gold. Kale's hands trembled as he touched the small flint knife at his belt, a keepsake from Nahata. The call to vengeance was a heavy burden, one that clashed with the DNA teachings of harmony, yet the wolf's pain felt like his own, a wound that refused to heal. He sought counsel from the village's medicine woman, Sani, a frail elder with eyes that saw beyond the veil. Sani sat in her hogan, surrounded by bundles of sage and cedar, her hands tracing patterns in the sand. "The spirit of Ashki is restless," she said, her voice a whisper. "He seeks justice, but vengeance is a dangerous path, Kyle. It binds, the living to the dead." She performed a small ritual, burning sage and chanting softly, her words rising like smoke. "Take this," she said, handing him a pouch of pollen, a sacred offering for protection. "If you go, seek the truth, not the blood." Kyle left the hogan, the pouch tied to his belt, his mind a storm of doubt. He stood on the hill where he'd often watched the stars with Nahata, the mesa looming in the distance, its shadow a silent call. The black wolf appeared again, not in a dream, but in the waking world, its form shimmering at the mesa's edge. It howled, the sound piercing Kale's heart, and turned toward the west, where the town of Red Gulch lay, a den of outlaws and traitors built on the bones of the past. Kale knew he could not ignore the call. He returned to his hogan, gathering his few possessions, a bow and quiver of arrows, the flint knife, a woven blanket, and a water skin. Elu watched him with tearful eyes, her hands trembling as she pressed a small clay bead into his palm. "Come, back to us, my son," she whispered. Sela placed a hand on Kale's shoulder, his grip firm. "Honor our ways," he said, his voice steady. Yiska hugged Kale tightly, her small voice breaking. "Don't let the wolves take you, brother." As dawn broke over Black Mesa, Kale stood at the village's edge, the black wolf waiting at the mesa's base, its amber eyes fixed on him. He adjusted his blanket, the pollen pouch warm against his side, and took his first step toward Red Gulch, the spirit's howl echoing in his heart. The path of vengeance had begun. The journey to Red Gulch was a trial of endurance. The desert sun scorching Kale's skin as he walked for days across dunes and rocky plains. The black wolf led the way, its form flickering like a mirage, its amber eyes a constant guide. Kyle's water skin grew lighter with each sip, his steps heavier, but the spirit's call kept him moving. He whispered prayers to the holy people, scattering pollen from Sani's pouch, seeking strength to face what lay ahead. On the third day, the town of Red Gulch appeared on the horizon, a jagged scar on the desert's face. Ramshackle buildings of wood and adobe lined a dusty street, their signs creaking in the wind. Saloon, general store, blacksmith. Horses snorted outside a corral, and men in tattered coats moved with the swagger of those who lived by the gun. The air smelled of whiskey, smoke, and danger. A far cry from the sage and cedar of Kale's village. The black wolf paused at the town's edge, its growl a warning before vanishing into the shadows. Kale pulled his blanket tighter, hiding his Navajo tunic, and stepped into Red Gulch, his bow slung across his back, the flint knife at his belt. Eyes followed him, hard, suspicious eyes of men who saw a stranger as either prey or threat. He kept his head low, his senses sharp, until he reached the saloon, its swinging doors creaking as he entered. The room was dim, lit by oil lamps, filled with the clink of glasses and the murmur of rough voices. A piano played a discordant tune in the corner, and a group of men sat at a table, their hands on their revolvers, their laughter cold. Kale's gaze locked on one man, Luther Kane, the leader of the town's most notorious gang, a descendant of the bounty hunters who had betrayed Ash Key. Kane's face was scarred, his eyes a pale blue that cut like ice, his duster coat stained with the dust of countless raids. Kale felt the wolf's growl in his chest, a surge of rage that made his hand tighten on the knife. But he remembered Sani's words, "Seek the truth, not the blood," and forced himself to stay calm. As Kale ordered a drink to blend in, a woman approached, her presence a quiet contrast to the saloon's chaos. She was Navajo, her long hair braided with beads, her tunic adorned with geometric patterns, her eyes sharp with wisdom. "You don't belong here," she said, her voice low. "I'm Nita. I know what you seek, and it will destroy you." Kale's eyes narrowed, but her gaze held no malice, only concern. "How do you know me?" he asked. Nita glanced at the crow pendant visible beneath his blanket. "The spirits speak," she said. "Ash Key's pain is known to those who listen." Nita led Kale to a corner table, her words a whisper. "Kane's ancestors killed mine too," she said. "But vengeance won't heal the past. It will only bring more death." Kyle's jaw tightened, the wolf's growl echoing in his mind. "Ashkey demands justice," he said. Nita shook her head. "Justice isn't blood. Protect the living, Kale. Your village needs you more than Ashkey needs revenge." Before Kale could respond, the saloon doors burst open, and Kane's men dragged in a wounded Navajo trader, his face bloody, his hands bound. "Found this one snooping around our stash?" one of the men sneered. Kane stood, his revolver gleaming as he pressed it to the trader's head. "Tell me where your people hide or you die," he growled. Kale's heart pounded, his hand on the knife, the wolf's howl urging him to act. But Nita's hand on his arm held him back. "Not here," she whispered. "Not now." Cale's blood boiled as he watched Cain torment the traitor, the wolf's howl deafening in his mind. But Nita's words echoed too. Protect the living. He slipped out of the saloon with her, the traitor's cries fading behind them. Nita led him to a small shack at the town's edge where she tended to her own supplies. Herbs, blankets, a bow of her own. "Cain's gang has been raiding Navajo villages," she said, her voice steady but laced with pain. "They take our sheep, our food, even our people. They'll come for your village next." Cale's eyes darkened, the wolf's growl of fire in his chest. "I came to avenge Ashki," he said, "but I won't let them hurt my people." Nita nodded, her hands deftly preparing a bundle of arrows. "Then we fight together," she said, "but we fight for life, not death." Cale looked at her, seeing the strength in her eyes, the same strength he'd seen in his mother, in Sanny. He nodded, the wolf's howl softening, as if Ashki understood. They left Red Gulch under the cover of night, the black wolf appearing, once more its form shimmering as it led them back to Black Mesa. Kyle and Nita reached the village at dawn, the mesa's shadow stretching long across the hogans. Elu and Sela ran to Kyle, their relief palpable, but their faces fell as he told them of Cain's threat. Yiska clung to Kyle's hand, her small voice trembling. "Will the wolves come for us, brother?" Kyle knelt, his eyes fierce. "Not while I'm here," he promised. The village prepared for battle, the men sharpening arrows, the women gathering supplies, the elders chanting prayers to the holy people. Cale and Nita stood at the mesa's base, the black wolf pacing beside them, its amber eyes fixed on the horizon. As the sun rose, dust clouds appeared in the distance. Cain and his gang, a dozen riders armed with rifles and revolvers, their horses snorting as they approached. "They'll burn everything," Nita said, her bow ready. Kyle gripped his own bow, the wolf's growl a steady rhythm in his chest. "Not today," he said. The battle was fierce, the air thick with dust and the crack of gunfire. Cale and Nita fought side by side, their arrows finding their marks, while the villagers used the mesa's terrain to their advantage, striking from the shadows. Cain's men were ruthless, their bullets tearing through hogans, but the Dene were resilient, their spirits unyielding. Cale faced Cain in the heart of the chaos, the outlaw's revolver aimed at his chest. "You're a fool, boy," Cain sneered. "This land belongs to the strong." Cale's eyes burned, the wolf's howl surging through him. "This land belongs to the Dene," he said, and released an arrow that struck Cain's shoulder, sending him to the ground. With Cain wounded, his men fled, their horses galloping into the desert. Cale stood over the outlaw, the flint knife in his hand, the wolf's growl urging him to end it. But Nita's voice cut through the haze. "Protect the living, Cale," she said, her hand on his arm. Cale looked at Cain, then at his village, the Ai, Hogan scarred but standing, his people alive, Yiska's small form running toward him. He dropped the knife, the wolf's growl fading to a whisper. The village tended to its wounds, the elders chanting songs of thanks to the holy people, the children gathering around the fire as night fell over Black Mesa. Cale and Nita sat with the traitor they'd rescued, a man named Che from a neighboring village who spoke of Cain's gang with a shudder. "They've terrorized us for years," he said. "You've given us hope." Kyle looked at the mesa, its shadow a quiet presence, and felt the weight of Ashki's spirit still lingering. That night, Kyle climbed the mesa alone, the black wolf appearing at his side, its amber eyes softer now, its growl replaced by a mournful whine. Kyle scattered pollen from Sani's pouch, chanting a prayer he'd learned from Nahata, a song of healing and release. "Ashki," he said, his voice steady, "your kin are safe. Your pain ends here. Find peace with the holy people." The wolf howled one last time, a sound that rose to the stars, and as the wind carried the sound away, the wolf's form dissolved, its spirit finally free. Kale returned to the village, the fire still burning, the stars a blanket above. Elu draped, a new blanket over his shoulders, its patterns woven with the shape of a wolf. "For your courage," she said, her eyes shining. Tsela handed Kale the flint knife, its blade untouched by blood. "You honored our ways," he said, his voice thick with pride. Yiska hugged Kale, her small hands clutching the clay bead she'd given him. "The wolves didn't take you," she whispered, and Kyle smiled, ruffling her hair. Nita sat with Sani, the medicine woman's hands tracing patterns in the sand, her chants a soft melody. "You chose life over death," Sani said, her eyes meeting Kyle's. "That is the true path of the Diné." Kyle nodded. The weight of vengeance lifted, replaced by a quiet strength. He looked at Nita, her presence a steady flame, and knew she would walk with him in the days to come. The village held a small ceremony, the fire's light casting shadows on the hogans, the drums beating a rhythm of renewal. Kyle stood with his people, the Mesa, a silent guardian, its scars a testament to their survival. The stars above seemed brighter, the air filled with the scent of sage and cedar, a promise of peace. Years later, Kyle stood on the same hill where he'd first seen the black wolf, his own children at his side, their eyes wide with wonder. He held the flint knife, its blade still clean, and told them the story of Ashki, of Black Mesa, of a battle that taught him the power of redemption. "The spirits guide us," he said, pointing to the stars. "But we choose our path." Nita joined them, her hand in his, her smile a quiet strength, and together they looked at the mesa, its shadow a reminder of the past. On quiet nights, Kale would hear a distant howl, not of vengeance, but of peace, and look up to see a black wolf standing on the mesa, its amber eyes glowing under the moonlight, a guardian of the Diné. And that, friends, is the ghost of Black Mesa. I hope Kale's journey lit a spark in your heart. If it did, leave a comment. Would you seek revenge or redemption? Subscribe to Tales of the Untamed West for more Navajo folk tales and Wild West legends, and explore our Untamed Tales playlist. Until next time, keep the fire burning, and may the spirits guide your path.